Hello there everyone, talking about everyone's favourite tax today, VAT. So this is a recent case that went through the tribunals concerning the recovery of input VAT, where HMRC challenged the recovery of input VAT, said to the company you cannot claim VAT back on certain expenditure, and it went to the courts and the courts sided with the taxpayer. So HMRC lost and the taxpayer won. So what was it all about? Let's get stuck in. So, this concerns a parent company selling the shares of a subsidiary. So, Topco has a subsidiary that it wants to sell. So, acquiring company over here, funds go to the parent company and it offloads its subsidiary, which becomes part of the acquirer. Now, when you consider selling companies, obviously the biggest tax that's in play is capital gains tax. Thankfully, there is part of the capital gains tax code called substantial shareholding relief, and generally, if done correctly, it means that there'll be zero capital gains tax for the parent when they offload their subsidiary. That's great. So no capital gains when they've sold that subsidiary, the shares in that company. However, this is not about capital gains tax. This is about VAT. So what happened was, considering the other taxes on this, VAT does not apply to share sales. So it's an exempt supply. So you sell shares in a business, that transaction, there's no VAT on it. So when this acquiring company bought the shares in the limited company, let's say it's for £1 million, it wasn't given an invoice for £1 million plus VAT. It's an exempt supply for VAT. They paid £1 million to these guys to acquire this sub. Now, what this parent company did, they obviously incurred costs associated with the disposal of the subsidiary, lawyers' fees, accountants' fees, corporate finance, advisors, whatever, and they claimed the VAT back on those invoices. So these guys claimed the VAT back on the professional fees associated with the disposal of its subsidiary. And HMRC said, you can't do that. Because the sale is an exempt supply, because there's no VAT charged on the sale, there is no direct link here. You cannot claim the VAT back because it's to do with an exempt supply. Because basically the rules on VAT recovery say that if you have exempt supplies, the associated input VAT cannot be recovered. Basically, that's what it says. If you have standard rated or zero rated, you can get the VAT back. Now, this was an exempt supply. The argument put forward by the taxpayer in the courts, they said, look, this money that we used it for furtherance of our business. This was a hotel business, by the way. And the company that received the cash from selling its subsidiary, they said, we're using that money to finance, to construct the building of another hotel, either in here or another subsidiary company. But it's going to be retained in the business for the purpose of the business. And the business, that of providing hotel accommodation, is VATable at the standard rate. So the monies that we use from the sale of the subsidiary will be used to invest in something which ultimately will be for a VATable purpose. And the tribunal sided with the taxpayer, agreed with that argument. They said, yes, even though that is an exempt sale, an exempt transaction, the actual sale of the shares in the subsid, because you've got to look at it in the round and say, well, the monies is used for the furtherance of a taxable business, the input tax recovery was allowed on those professional fees. So, tip for the day is to think about your input VAT recovery. Now, most businesses, I would say the vast majority of businesses who are charging VAT on sales invoices can reclaim all of their input VAT in full on 99% of all their expenses. But in situations like this, something a little bit quirky, sale of shares, you've got to think about it because it's not always straightforward, like this case shows. Also, partially exempt businesses, of course, if you are making both exempt and taxable supplies, you've got to pro-rata various things, but I've done separate videos on that. But just a bit of insight there on a recent case on VAT and VAT recovery, and the takeaway is do be careful on the VAT that you are recovering in particularly an unusual situation. So if you like this video, please do subscribe, and I'll see you soon.